Hey, Darkman here, and welcome to my Bleach chapter 651 review. So it starts off in a flashback with I don't know why I said that, and I felt like I said it pretty weird. So it starts off with Shunshui being woken up by someone who turns out to be his sister, sort of, in a way. That will be talked about later on in the video. Oh, but the person does look like Nanao. And then it cuts back to the present with Lily. And he does this weird thing. I don't understand the point of it, but his head just expand, like it flattens, and then it expands. That's weird. Yeah. And then he finds their location through a shadow on the ground and decides to just like get rid of all the shadows, which there's nothing casting the shadow that they're in, so would making a huge light really do anything to it? But then right as he does that, a shadow is like formed on his forehead from the light ball that he created, and then now jumps out of it. And now they're kind of like talking like... So it cuts back to the shadow dimension place, where they're talking about like how Nanao knew that Cotton and... can't pronounce his names, I'm going to try here. Kyaku? Yeah, I got that right. I'm just going to start calling it Kyo from now on. With Cotton meaning heavenly flower and Kyo meaning lunatic. She knew how they could always split up into two. Just gonna hold this real quick. And so Kyo is her Zanpakuto lunatic. And he said that there's more to it, and it actually turns out that Flower gave birth to lunatic, which made me kind of think like, wouldn't that mean that technically Shunshui's Zanpakuto would technically have to be his sister's? Because his would be Cotton, which is Flower, which gave birth to Lunatic, which is Now's. So, this was done by her mom, you know. And it kind of like talks about why, and apparently her lineage, like her entire bloodline's all in women, and like every time they like marry, like the husband gets like sick and dies, but like some people didn't like believe in that superstition, but her mother did. So she like, I think I might be getting a little ahead of myself. But that sword is the, I'm not, but Kyo is like the root of all those problems apparently. I think the sword, and he essentially just describes it as the sword that wants to play hide and seek, is looking for a place to hide. So then it cuts back to, I'm sorry, I'm just like skipping around a little bit to make sure I'm not getting too far ahead of myself. So then it cuts back to the outside where like, it keeps coming back from like flashback forward to flashback to forward. Like it cuts from like flashback from way back, cuts to present, cuts to a flashback from like a couple minutes ago, goes back to present. It's being a little weird. And so now like it cuts back from like a page, essentially just saying that only the aide returned, and then she's like, well, whatever will happen. And she says that she's like well aware, you know, of like the curse, but she's ready to like take it on. And then like the person that she adores, what she's implying as Shunshui, would say that this entire superstition is just like silly, and you'd laugh at it. And so he gives her the sword, cuts back to the present, and there's like this wrapping thing on the sword, and she takes it off, and says that her sword, well, hang on, I am getting ahead of myself. There's a lot to this chapter. I'm not really talking about like any of it, but there's a lot to it. And essentially, like, says like, no, not exactly everyone in her like family has a Zanpakuto. It's only given to like the head of the houses, which I guess would be Nanao's mom, and then it was given to Shunshui to give to her. But how exactly it works is, it takes the power of gods and sends it in the 8 different directions, like north, west, northwest, that kind of stuff. And that's essentially how it all works. And then, so she takes the wrappings off, and it is called Shinken Hakyuken, which I found that to be a little weird. I thought it was going to have like something to do with something to do with like Kyo, because you know that's what it was before, so now it's this instead, which is a little weird. Which, actually, now think about it, maybe it's because Shunshui had it that it became Kyo in the first place, and that's how it gave birth to it. So that's possibly a theory that might not ever get confirmed ever in the existence of Bleach. Yeah, so that's where the chapter ends. And now I'm thinking like, I didn't realize till now that like Bleach has a lot of, well, not really that many, but this is just like another one of the fights where like one of the characters fighting is like specifically made to beat the opponent, like Byakuya and Zomori, forgot his name, or Rukia and Ruaban. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, these characters are specifically made to like beat these other ones. This also reminded me of like the Miori and Kurodina fight, where the captain got taken out and it was up to the lieutenant to finish the fight. So yeah, that's actually what I first thought when Now showed up back into the fight last chapter. Yeah. And I'm guessing that like this fight's probably not going to last like much longer, like 2 or 3 chapters at most, because I'm pretty sure that this fight started at like 2:45. So if it's only going to be like 8 chapters, it will be ending in like the next 2 chapters, 2 to 3. Yeah. So yeah, I think that this is good, weird, confusing, not confusing, just like weird, kind of like jumbled chapter. Yeah. I know that I didn't really say much at all this review, but I said what I could. Boy.